Okay, so here we are again. I say here we are again because Dave and I, this is one of the first things that we worked on was the last Thunder Arena thing. And we are actually mentioned in David Holt's book, Big League City. The
Well,
term,
not actually mentioned, just alluded to because he doesn't actually say our
he
name.
doesn't say our name, but he says everything else. So, um, yeah.
He literally wrote the book.
Literally wrote the book. So, just a little background: the term "big league city" comes from, and this is important for what I'm about to say, a Norman lobbyist by the name of Pat McFerrin. He is the gentleman that came up with that phrase. He lives in Norman. He's not an Oklahoma City resident. And why I bring this up is because here in this book, and I'm going to go ahead and read this little excerpt that's about Dave and I. The remaining opposition to Big League City was unfunded but vocal. It was led by a grassroots group of activists who had not known each other before the election. That's true. We met each other. I met your brother, and he introduced us, and then we got going.
Wanda Joe.
So
She was 90. She just died recently. She had a memorial at the
she was
Capitol.
90 when we were doing all that.
No, she's
Oh,
90 when she died, and it turns out she died on her birthday, and she just had a really nice memorial where people can go and look at that on YouTube. And Cal Hobson and David Walters said some stuff about her. She had very strong principles and values about how things should be.
they had literally found each other at council meetings where they would come to speak live at the city's television station against the proposal. This is why they're putting the proposal out there so that we don't have as much opportunity to do that and meet people, and because it's all about community here in the city. One was a former Democrat state representative, Wanda Joe Peltier. She sat in her living room day after day, personally calling voters and explaining to them why they shouldn't support Maps for Millionaires. That was our group that we had, Maps for Millionaires. She was evidence that one person with a good voter list could make a difference. It was estimated she had called thousands of voters, which is true. I mean, she's amazing. Another of the leaders the media often quoted was a person who couldn't even vote in the election because he lived in a suburb of Oklahoma City. Kind of like, well, I mean, this McFerrin didn't even live in a suburb of Oklahoma City. He lived in Norman. At least David lived inside of the city. Okay, so
I
he's
spent a lot
talking.
of money in Oklahoma City, so I mean, I was interested in that.
So I'll read that again. Another one of the leaders the media often quoted was a person who couldn't even vote in the election because he had lived in a suburb of Oklahoma City. He described his profession as hang gliding. Another of the leaders was a FedEx delivery man. That was me. I was a lowly idiot worker who worked a job, which is I went to Putnam City. I didn't go to Heritage, so I had to work a job. FedEx delivery man. Though unfunded, they used every resource they could. In addition to phone and flyers, the three made sure to appear in every newspaper until every. So yeah, we did get on Channel 25.
We tried.
Yeah. Remember,
Wanted to get the word out.
we got on a couple different TV shows, and I don't think it's going to happen again because in the past 15 years, the state of the media has just crashed, and it was horrible back then. But now there's just like literally nothing for people that work at FedEx or hang gliding. Okay, so going on, Cornette desperately wanted to debate them. That is not true. That can't possibly. I mean, maybe he did, but
Actually, we had a chance a couple of times, and he said he would not go on the show where when Wanda and I were at a television show. She goes, no, we will not appear together. I'll speak. You can speak to them,
Okay.
but we will not talk.
He desperately wanted to debate them on his terms. That's what it was. As he felt he knew more about this topic than anyone else possibly could. Oh, wow. But the campaign convinced him that such an exercise would only give the opposition a free platform. I mean, the people own the airwaves, right? I mean, at least in actuality, but not in. I mean, that's how it should be. So they talk about a free platform for us to voice our concerns. It's just astonishing, and it's worth noting that right before this started ramping up, speaking of free platforms, Cornette worked a deal to get rid of public access television because Atlanta-based Cox said it wasn't fair that AT&T didn't have to provide such a service, even though it was part of the agreement with the city for Cox to lay cables in our land. They had to provide. And so they worked really hard to suppress it. And this time they aren't even going to have to work because the media is in line, everyone is in line, the reps are in line, James Cooper's in line. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, well, in general, and I want to say that I think it's great having the Thunder here. I think it's wonderful. I think it's nice. I just think what's uncool is that the citizens have to subsidize people that are very wealthy with a thing that makes a lot of money every year. If they want to cry poor that they need money and they're not making enough, and so we need a new arena to make more money, just open your books and show us and prove that, because I'm not sure they can, because I don't know how much more they're going to make with the new arena. I do know that there's going to be X hundreds of millions of dollars taken away from the citizens of Oklahoma City to do one thing, which is build a second arena, which we've been told over and over that we need, even though it looks like, if you look at all the surveys, the fans love Oklahoma City, love the arena. It's doing great. The only reason that there's such a push for it is that, well, I mean, I guess we'd have building dollars, and I guess if you paid somebody to smash every window in town, there'd be economic development too. But the thing is we don't need another arena. And one of the things that where they're thinking about putting it, I hear the most likely place is we have an arena at the Cox Convention Center. It's called a super block. It's two blocks by 2 blocks. And almost any urban planner that's looked at the
Where
plan,
Prairie Surf is now.
right. And that's an ongoing, the film industry's doing well. But if they knock that down and put it there on the super block, from every urban planner and from everything that anybody knows about walkability or economic development, the worst thing that is there right now is this huge blob of a 2 block by 2 block super block. Hans Butzer, who's one of he's the dean of the architecture school at the University of Oklahoma. He was the designer, him and his wife Tori were the designers of the bombing memorial that won the prize, and he ended up moving here. And he's provided a lot of help to Oklahoma City over time, telling them how you should do things to improve everybody. And one of the things that he said many years ago, he said, the worst thing you can do is keep the super block a super block. The best thing you can do is actually tearing it down, returning to the grid, and then having vibrancy, which I know are words you hate, but retail on the bottom. You could have, restaurants, bars, retail around those streets to be able to activate the whole landscape. Then you could have living and businesses on top of that. Mm-hmm. But the worst thing you could do is to keep it a super block. And then here's the other question. What are we going to do with the other arena? I mean, so if we're going to build this new one somewhere, are we just going to tear down this one that we have $300 million in? I mean, at a certain point, shouldn't we have somewhat of a stake in the plan? And then if they say, oh, well, we'll pay you if we leave because we promised not to leave. Well, I think that the payment should be hundreds of millions of dollars if they decide to leave anytime, because that's what it's going to cost, paying, 25 or $50 million to get out of their contract. The city already loses direct money on how much we lease it for to how much it costs the city to run it. I mean, just getting to the point of being even on that would be kind of cool, or being a partner in some of these other things. I just think about in your mind, if you had $500 million and you were in charge of spending it for the city to improve it for the most people, would you build the second arena? I mean, to me, it just doesn't make sense.
So the team leaving is kind of the thing people think about, but what no one's thinking about is something that I heard from someone that is in the circle of the ownership, and that is that once they get the new arena, the team's value will go up significantly, and they intend to sell the team.
Either all together or in individual chunks.
There's
multiple owners.
Bennett, the McClendon family,
State,
Tulsa,
George
Kaiser, and then the mid-first. So either a few of them will sell their stake, because the team will go from like 1.8 billion to 3 billion, and then they can sell it. And rather than just giving the team to their heirs, they can give them the money, and they can, continue running the city into the ground. But that's something that I really want people to focus on, is the fact that there is very good, very reliable information that they want to sell the team once they get their new arena, and that's a part of why they want it. And you can look back at the emails from the Sonic Gate between Bennett and others, just literally talking horribly about how he wants to get as much out of the people as he possibly can, and just referring to us more or less as an ATM for his, and it's awful. I mean, this is just a guy that married into this family and doesn't really contribute anything to the city other than, I shouldn't say it like that, but it's sinister. I mean, it's really sinister. I mean, people are suffering out there. I mean, you talk to working folks downtown working at the $85 million subsidized Omni, they're miserable. I mean, people are having a very hard time. Apartments are unaffordable. My old Paseo apartment that was 500 is now 1600. Should be about 700 adjusted for inflation. Things are getting tough. I mean, if we could really show how people are living on the fringes of Oklahoma City right now, this thing, we wouldn't even need to try to beat this thing.
So it looks like the team owners bought the Sonics for about 325 million. For my calculations, it looks like the public has invested about that, nearly, almost, not quite the same amount in the arena. And we were told we needed to upgrade, and now they're saying, oh, well, we can slow down on the upgrade because really we just need a brand new arena. Well, when you look at the fan surveys that of how much they enjoy and the loyalty, I mean, I'm not sure we do. And the biggest thing to me is, how can you justify having the public spend this much when it's obviously they're doing it because they think they can make a little bit more a year. I mean,
Yeah.
The team makes, it looks like 30, 20, 30, $40 million a year. This next year, Forbes, if you Google how much teams are worth, the team is worth like one chunk, like 50% of it. But then the arena is, a chunk of how a team is evaluated: the brand, the name, the city, the market. And I mean, I don't understand the rationale on needing a new arena when I really don't even think David Holt, with a straight face, saying there is nothing better we can do with $500 million than build a second arena.
I want to say something about that. There was a moment in 2012 when this book, and I'm being generous calling it a book, came out, full circle. I think I was in Seattle at the time. That last paragraph, Dave mentions that I moved to Seattle, hardy har har. You went to the book signing of Big League City, and of course saw Pat McFerrin there, bought 6 copies. But I remember you saying something very interesting, and it said a lot to me about Holt, about how deeply on the spectrum he is and doesn't understand people's suffering. You asked him if he understood why we were doing this, and what was his response? Do you remember?
I think it was something like, no, he just didn't understand why anybody would be against it.
He just didn't understand. I mean, this guy who's been in politics his entire life claims to care about the homeless and the gay people and whatever the latest thing is, just doesn't understand why we possibly be against it. I'm like, man, this guy.
And I'm not against the basketball team.
No,
I've
become friends with a couple of the coaches. The one that's actually left. This would be great. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, it's great. It's a great business. I'm just not sure how much it needs to be subsidized for it to be successful. I mean, we've already subsidized it a lot, and it seems like it's doing well. And I just can't believe that. I'm wondering if it's just like Neil says, you get in a room and the people that you're around are the team owners, and maybe they're going to be future donors to your campaign, or you need to be in their good graces, or you want to go to their party. I don't know, but
it's a lot like my friend Finkelstein says about another issue. There's this thick ideological fog that permeates everything, and people just can't see through it. It's amazing. I mean, it's like. Well, there's ways you can describe it that are pretty frightening, but yeah, it's like we just need to get our message out, and we need to talk to people.
Right. Well, I mean, what it is that there's going to be a lot of money coming in from the chamber and the Thunder owners to get this, because part of me would like to rewrite the legislature, and instead of making a public outlay of $500 million, that obviously we could fix potholes, we could fix a lot of things.
Community Wi-Fi, like I said 15 years ago.
Almost everybody has probably a better way to spend that money than the second arena that we already have one that works well. What's crazy is that, my feeling about this is, instead of spending the money on that, I'd love to have the legislature go, can we just like give them $100 million and say, leave us alone for 10 years? I mean, have it cost us less. They still get the money that they're going to receive from the little more money that a new arena is going to bring in. We don't have to destroy the super block and put the wrong thing in there. We can utilize the arena that we have. I mean, it's just one of those things where we have all this state of the art new stuff.
And they
in
can
the
still
new
have the
arena.
feeling that they beat us down, which is part of it because they love that.
But you know, truly, it has to be about the money because you know they need or want $500+ million of us. You know, how much more are they going to make? I'd love to see the analysis and say, can we just give you that and then leave us alone? Because wouldn't it be better if we like could save $400 million on the deal and they get what they want and we get to keep 400 million? I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand, and I would love it to be explained to me because I don't think anybody with a straight face can go, yeah, there is no better way. Because I guess what it is that I think there's an inferiority complex with Oklahoma City that's like, we can't not do anything to possibly not have the Thunder here. And my feeling is keep the Thunder, give them the money, and then, but maybe we don't have to put out as much money.
I think one thing people can do to really understand all of this is read and watch, or read or watch The Big Short, because it really does an incredible job of explaining how this all works and just how
A book and then a
sinister
movie by Michael Lewis.
and how these guys win. Heads I win, tails you lose. Holt pretends to care about the extremism that exists with Trump, etc. And he doesn't understand that he has helped to create it. Because stuff like this creates economic situations where people have nothing to do and they look to the extremes. And then he benefits off of that. That's why Holt is so beloved by the extreme center right now, because he pretends to not like Trump and not like the extremism, even though the fact that he's the one that created the whole need for it. And it's incredible. And I think like The Big Short is one of my favorite books and movies because it perfectly explains how Goldman Sachs and other entities who are just like the Chamber, just like Holt, they win regardless what happens. And the problems they create, they benefit from them. The problem that Goldman Sachs, by writing those contracts that they knew were going to fail, destroyed lives. And they benefit. And then when
Well,
they
they're
play
on the wrong side, and then they jump to the
yeah,
other side.
and they're on the wrong side. They get to the other, and just as Holt has jumped to this other side after running Bush's campaign, where the big talking point was flip flop. Now he's like the king of flip flop. He's in image. He's become this fun-loving progressive when he used to be the guy that wrote the bill on drug testing welfare recipients and giving money to payday loan companies, and it's incredible. So we got a big fight on our hands.
I'm not quite as crazy against Steve. Obviously, has this sort of thing with Holt that goes back a long way for a lot of reasons.
That's exactly as the population feels with Trump.
I think that I just think he misunderstands what the best way to use that much money is and how it would improve the city. I mean, I think real leadership would be, wow, why don't we, instead of the next maps being this much money for our new arena that we already have one, just think of how much that money could do other things for and what it be. I mean, I hope that they don't kill the golden goose, because it's one of those things at a certain point, people are going to maybe vote against it. And then once you lose that opportunity to keep that going, you lose the opportunity to do all the good things that maps comes from. I think the team is great. I just don't think second arena makes any sense.
First maps was great. The last several have had a few good things, so yeah. Well, all right. I guess that's enough.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks a lot for watching. I can't believe you watched this long, but thanks.
Yeah.
Take care. Call us with any questions or add comments. Thank you.
Cool. Try to splice that up and make it cohesive.
Was it? He said it was going live. It was live.
No.
I don't know where it
Not
would.
live.
I don't know where it would go live.